Everything happens for a reason. These 5 words have brought comfort to millions and rage to countless others. They've been whispered at hospital bedsides, offered awkwardly at funerals, and thrown around casually when life's cruelty leaves us scrambling for meaning. But what if I told you that most people who use this phrase completely misunderstand what it actually means, and that this misunderstanding causes more harm than healing? Tonight we dive deep into one of Buddhism's most misinterpreted teachings to discover what everything happens for a reason truly means, according to ancient wisdom, and why understanding this correctly could transform how you relate to both suffering and joy in your life. In the monastery high in the Himalayan foothills where I studied for years, I once asked my teacher about this very phrase after watching a young mother lose her child to sudden illness. "Master," I said, struggling with my own faith, "how can we say everything happens for a reason when innocent children die? What possible reason could justify such suffering?" His response would fundamentally change how I understood the nature of existence itself. The first profound truth we must grasp is this: everything happens for a reason does not mean everything happens for a good reason that will make you happy. This distinction isn't just semantic. It's the difference between spiritual wisdom and spiritual bypass, between genuine understanding and comforting delusion. Buddhism teaches that everything arises from causes and conditions, but these causes often have nothing to do with cosmic justice, divine plan, or ultimate fairness. When someone contracts cancer, the reason isn't that the universe decided they needed to learn a lesson about gratitude. The reason is a complex web of genetic predisposition, environmental factors, stress, lifestyle choices, random cellular mutations, and countless other variables intersecting in a particular moment. When a natural disaster strikes, it's not because those people deserved punishment or needed to grow spiritually. It's because tectonic plates shifted, weather patterns collided, or geological forces that have been building for millennia reached a critical point. Understanding this liberates you from the exhausting task of trying to find hidden meaning in every tragedy, the guilt of wondering what you did to deserve your suffering, and the dangerous judgment of others who face difficulties different from your own. The universe isn't personally orchestrating your challenges to teach you lessons, but that doesn't make your challenges meaningless or pointless. This leads us to the second transformative understanding. The reason something happens is often less important than how you choose to respond to what has happened. Buddhist wisdom recognizes that while you cannot control the countless causes and conditions that create your circumstances, you have profound power over your response to those circumstances. This response in turn becomes a cause that shapes your future experience. I witnessed this truth embodied by a monk named Tenzin, who had fled Tibet as a young man, losing his family, his home, and his entire way of life to political oppression. When students would ask him about finding meaning in his suffering, he would say, "I cannot change that my family was killed or that my village was destroyed. These things happened due to causes I could not control: human greed, political power, historical forces much larger than any individual. But I could choose whether to let hatred consume me or to use this pain as fertilizer for compassion." Tenzin's response to uncontrollable circumstances became the cause of his profound peace, his ability to teach others, and his capacity to find joy even after experiencing tremendous loss. He didn't need his suffering to have been meant to be or part of some grand plan. He needed only to recognize his power to choose his relationship with what had already occurred. This shift from seeking reasons in your past to creating meaning through your present responses is one of the most liberating realizations you can have. You stop waiting for life to make sense and start making sense of your life through conscious choice. The third insight challenges our addiction to control and predictability. Some things happen for no reason at all, and this randomness is itself part of the natural order. Buddhism acknowledges that not everything in existence follows neat patterns or serves human purposes. Sometimes cells mutate randomly. Sometimes accidents occur due to pure chance. Sometimes people meet and fall in love simply because they happen to be in the same coffee shop at the same moment. Sometimes they never meet because one of them got stuck in traffic. This randomness isn't a flaw in the universe, it's a feature. The interplay of cause and effect with pure chance creates the dynamic, unpredictable creative force we call life. If everything were predetermined, if every event served a specific purpose, existence would be a mechanical script with no room for genuine choice, growth, or surprise. Accepting randomness paradoxically brings more peace than trying to find purpose in everything. When you can say, sometimes bad things happen for no good reason, and sometimes wonderful things occur through pure luck, you stop torturing yourself trying to decode every experience, and start focusing on what actually matters, how you show up in the world regardless of what shows up in your life. The fourth teaching reveals the deeper pattern behind apparent chaos. Individual events may seem random, but the laws governing all existence are precisely ordered. While specific occurrences might appear meaningless, they all occur within universal principles that Buddhism calls the Dharma, natural laws as reliable as gravity or thermodynamics. The law of impermanence means that all conditions, pleasant and unpleasant, will inevitably change. The law of interconnection means that nothing exists in isolation. Every phenomenon arises in relationship with countless other factors. The law of karma means that actions have consequences, though not always immediately or obviously. These laws don't make individual events fair or unfair, but they do provide a framework for understanding the deeper patterns that shape existence. Understanding these laws helps you work with reality rather than against it. You stop fighting impermanence and learn to appreciate temporary beauty. You stop pretending you're separate from the web of existence and start recognizing your deep interdependence. You stop expecting immediate rewards for good behavior and start understanding that the quality of your actions matters regardless of their immediate results. The fifth profound realization transforms how you relate to your own story. The meaning you assign to events is more powerful than the events themselves. Two people can experience identical circumstances and create completely different lives based solely on the meaning they derive from what happened to them. One person's childhood trauma becomes a lifelong excuse for destructive behavior. Another's becomes the foundation for profound empathy and healing work. Buddhism teaches that you are not just the passive recipient of your circumstances, but the active author of your responses. The stories you tell about what happened to you, the significance you assign to your experiences, the lessons you choose to learn or refuse to learn, these narratives become more influential than the original events themselves. This doesn't mean positive thinking can overcome everything, or that you should blame yourself for your natural responses to difficult circumstances. It means recognizing that between any event and your long-term relationship with that event lies a space of interpretive freedom where real transformation becomes possible. Consider a major challenge you've faced in your life. Notice the story you've been telling about it. Is it a story of victimhood or empowerment, of meaningless suffering or meaningful growth, of being broken by circumstances or being refined by them? You have more power than you might realize to edit this story in ways that serve your well-being without denying the reality of what occurred. The sixth teaching addresses one of the most dangerous distortions of this wisdom. Finding meaning in suffering doesn't require believing that suffering is good or necessary. Many people resist the idea that everything happens for a reason because they've seen it used to justify terrible circumstances or discourage people from seeking help. It's God's will, someone says to a person in an abusive relationship. You're meant to learn something from this, they tell someone with untreated depression. This is spiritual bypass at its worst, using philosophy to avoid taking appropriate action or offering genuine support. Buddhist wisdom about cause and effect never suggests that you should passively accept harmful situations or that seeking change demonstrates lack of faith. Instead, it encourages you to understand your circumstances clearly so you can respond most skillfully. Sometimes the most meaningful response to suffering is to end it. Sometimes the lesson isn't acceptance but action. Sometimes the reason something is happening is that someone is making harmful choices that need to be confronted. Understanding that everything has causes doesn't mean every situation should continue unchanged. The wisdom lies in discerning when to accept what cannot be changed, and when to change what should not be accepted. Both responses can be expressions of the same fundamental truth. You are not powerless in the face of circumstances, even when you cannot control the circumstances themselves. The seventh and final insight ties everything together. The deepest reason anything happens is to provide opportunities for consciousness to awaken to its true nature. This isn't about everything being planned for your personal benefit, but about recognizing that every experience, pleasant or painful, chosen or imposed, offers the possibility of greater awareness, compassion, and wisdom. Difficult circumstances can wake you up to the preciousness of what you usually take for granted. Loss can teach you about impermanence and help you appreciate what remains. Conflict can develop your capacity for patience and understanding. Success can reveal the emptiness of external achievements and point you toward more meaningful fulfillment. None of these experiences are required for awakening, but all of them can serve awakening if you remain open to their teachings. This perspective transforms your relationship with your entire life story. Instead of demanding that everything makes sense according to your preferences, you can ask what each experience might be offering in terms of wisdom, compassion, or understanding. Instead of requiring life to be fair, you can explore how to respond to unfairness with grace. Instead of insisting that good things happen to good people, you can learn to be good regardless of what happens. The monastery master's response to my question about the child's death finally makes complete sense to me now. He said, "Everything happens for a reason, but the reason is not always what we want it to be, and it's never what we think it should be. The reason that child died was disease, accident, or the countless causes that create such tragedies. But the reason you're asking this question is that your heart is opening to the reality of suffering, and your compassion is awakening. That awakening is also happening for a reason, because consciousness seeks to understand itself through every experience, even the most painful ones. You don't need to believe that your struggles were designed specifically for you, or that everything will work out for the best. You need only recognize that whatever arises in your life becomes raw material for awakening if you bring awareness, compassion, and wisdom to your response. This recognition doesn't eliminate suffering, but it transforms your relationship with suffering from resistance to acceptance, from meaninglessness to purpose, from isolation to connection with the universal human experience of facing uncertainty with courage. As you reflect on your own life tonight, consider not whether everything happened for a good reason, but how you can find good reasons to respond with wisdom, kindness, and awareness to everything that has happened. In that response lies your real power to create meaning, regardless of the circumstances that seem to create you. If this deeper understanding of an often misused phrase has shifted something in your perspective, please share these insights with others who might be struggling to find meaning in their challenges. Subscribe for more teachings that bridge ancient wisdom with practical understanding, and let me know in the comments how you've learned to work with the causes and conditions of your own life.